It was Hockey Day in Canada. It was the coast-to-coast celebration of great things about the game. There's an awful lot of questions about Canadian teams and where they're going from here. There's a whole bunch of them that aren't having particularly good seasons. Also coming up, we'll digest the busy 13-game schedule from Saturday, get you set for Sunday and the week ahead. Adam Vingan from the Tennessean will join us. We'll talk Nashville Predators, who had a victory over the Florida Panthers on Saturday night. Andy Strickland will join us to talk St. Louis Blues. And question number one is, what was that? What happened there with Arizona rolling up a 5-2 victory over the St. Louis Blues? Mark Lazerus, covering the Chicago Blackhawks, will be with us. He covers the Hawks for the Chicago Sun-Times. The Hawks went down 7-3 to the New York Islanders. Mike Heika with the story of the Dallas Stars blowout against the Buffalo Sabres. 7-1. Dallas wins big. And, of course, it's Sunday, and that means our friend Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, will be here with this week's Fantasy 5. Hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. The only place to find the Fantasy 5 is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis at HockeyUnfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow. As mentioned, it was a super busy Saturday. January continues to move on. There's a nice 5-game schedule today. It's early hockey again with the Philadelphia Flyers and Washington Capitals and the NBC game. Vegas at Carolina, Vancouver at Winnipeg, San Jose at Anaheim, and the New York Rangers at Los Angeles to take on the Kings. Round out the Sunday schedule. Hockey Day in Canada. It was a busy celebration day from coast to coast in Canada yesterday. Everybody's looking at the great, how fantastic it is, the isn't it wonderful reviews that we've had every year for now 2 decades of Hockey Day in Canada, and it is. It's wonderful. But a bunch of the teams that were highlighted as part of Hockey Day in Canada yesterday, boy, oh boy, are they ever having some nasty seasons. And there is the collective, what went wrong, what's going on with these kind of teams. There's stunned looks by the fans of Edmonton Oilers, Ottawa Senators, Montreal Canadiens in particular. These fan bases were all sold on the program that their guys would be good this year. They would return to the postseason. That was not only possible, but it was inevitable that it was going to happen for these 3 teams, and perhaps even building on their success from last year, a deeper playoff run, the chance for more success. It's imminent. It's on the horizon. Well, it hasn't happened. It won't happen for these teams. And those teams destined to miss the playoffs are all going to have to make some pretty significant adjustments if they hope to move into better form for next year. Lots of suggestions about what happened. We've got more than a large enough sample size now to make some reasonable assessments of choices and decisions that were made. Some of the play that has gone on has been head-shaking at times by these teams and others. I don't think that there is a single factor that you can point to for each of those teams, the Senators, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Montreal Canadiens, that has had them fall off the map. You can't just say, oh, this is it. This is the reason. Correct that. Everything is fine again next year. I think there's been a few contributing factors for all of these teams and the reasons that they've struggled. A lot of experts want to point to one specific thing because it makes for a good soundbite, makes for a good clip. Sometimes it's accurate. I don't think it is accurate in this case. I think it's all a culmination of circumstances and factors that have dealt these 3 teams, the Sens, the Oilers, and the Canadiens, such lousy seasons. For the Senators, let's begin there because they had one of the marquee matchups on Saturday with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the so-called Battle of Ontario. Maple Leafs, hey, they snapped their losing skid against the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators, after horrible second periods almost all season long, had a good one against the Maple Leafs, still wound up losing the game. People are pointing to the loss of some players from the roster last year versus this year. Mark Mathot was lost in expansion and has since moved on and found his way into Dallas. Clark MacArthur's had more injury issues. Kyle Turris was later traded as part of the big deal that brought in Matt Duchene. I'll give you some of that. That player personnel in those three cases has been a reason that the Senators haven't been successful. I don't think it's the only reason. I don't think just losing great guys in the room with contributions pretty significant at times, but not game-changing on a regular basis, is the reason for the Senators struggling. You can't tell me that one or even the combination of those three guys not with that team is more important than their best defenseman, who happens to be one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, who had his ankle rebuilt in the offseason and is coming back from such an enormous injury with major surgery. That's a big change. That's something you got to deal with. He's not fully healthy. He's not going to be fully healthy this year. Remember the Achilles injury that he suffered a while back? Had the Achilles slice, thought he was gone for the year, came back early, did manage to play, took him another year to figure it out and get healthy and be able to get his strength back and train again. That's a big blow. And how about the lousy goaltending that the Ottawa Senators have had? A year ago, we were amazed and proud and emotional of what Craig Anderson was doing for the Ottawa Senators. The performance he was putting together when he wasn't with his wife, Nicole, when he wasn't able to be there, he was in goal. He was playing lights out for the Ottawa Senators. When he was gone, Mike Condon was there, and he was fantastic. Neither have been this year. And add this to their offensive output being down. There's the assortment of injuries that every team goes through, but that will factor in. The overseas games, that took a blow. Contract discussions with Kyle Turris that became public. The outdoor game, the hoopla surrounding that, working on a new building, it not coming to fruition as of yet. Your owner shooting off his mouth on a regular basis and not having strict adherence to the Guy Boucher system this year. Put all that in a bag, you got the Ottawa Senators. And you have a really disappointing and frustrating season. And it's like, oh, well, we'll just make this one change or this one adjustment. No, it's a lot of things that haven't worked well for the Sens this year. So now, of course, there are going to have to be changes. Do you rebuild? Do you retool? Do you make and listen to the wild suggestions for trades and change? General Manager Pierre Dorion has got some work to do, without a doubt. But the first ask of everyone should be, shut your mouth, including to the owner, Eugene Melnyk. He can start with himself, I guess, too, before Eugene Melnyk. Pierre Dorion should shut his mouth, too, because you can't make statements like, our first priority is to sign Erik Karlsson, but, Wayne Gretzky got traded. Because what he's doing by saying that, he's covering his ass in case he does have to trade Erik Karlsson. All he has to say is, our first priority is to sign Erik Karlsson. Stop. Move on to the next subject. Now, I get what he said about Erik Karlsson, and he's right. But he doesn't need to add fuel to the bonfire that is already raging in the dumpster for the Ottawa Senators. Karlsson's the one who's handling it best. He's getting asked about it, and he's going to get peppered on a regular basis until the NHL trade deadline passes. Then it'll subside a little bit. And then when the Senators season is over, early in April, he'll get asked about it again at the exit interviews, and then it'll go quiet until we get closer to the NHL draft. But after the Maple Leafs defeated the Senators on Saturday night at home, Erik Karlsson gets asked about it after the game. What about your contract situation? What about the possibility of a trade? And he's likely going to get asked about it after every game for the rest of the season. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, but Erik Karlsson said, we've had a disappointing season and my contract, where it is, those questions are going to be looked at. It's reality. And yes, it is. Of course, you should ask those questions. But the answer should be, he's not going anywhere. Shut up. Full stop at that point. Now, the reality is, Ottawa Senators are a budget team. They're trying to get a new building. The owner isn't going to spend million after million after million after million losing money for the rest of his life, nor should he. So if this arena doesn't come online in a timely fashion, the way the Senators hope and see it progressing, The circumstances might be that Erik Karlsson, after July 1st, 2018, is going to be eligible to sign a new contract. And the Ottawa Senators would like to have him back next year. And they'll make him an offer that's probably going to have to be in the $11 or $12 million a year range, maximum term of 8 years for the Sens. But Erik Karlsson is going to be in the driver's seat deciding whether or not he wants to remain there. And again, he's saying all the right things. Yes, I've grown up here. This is the Senators that I came into the league with. This is where I want to stay. This is where I want to be. We'll see how it plays out. But it might be his choosing to decide whether a budget team with an uncertain building and arena and market future can pay him a maximum contract that he's going to get anywhere else and also have a competitive team. So is this John Tavares 2.0? It kind of is. Or if you want to go back further, this is Steven Stamkos 3.0. Stamkos didn't have the building issues, but he had choices to make as well. If things are sorting out the way the Sens want them and the dollars are an issue, they'll offer Karlsson what it takes to sign him. They'll offer him $12 million a year or $11 million a year. Because if they don't, it's only going to make their life and situation worse in the Ottawa market. $12 million a season is probably the number. He's going to ask what the rest of the team budget looks like. And if he's taking 12 and the rest of the team budget isn't going to allow them to spend to the necessary level to have a competitive team, he might say, you know what, I'm not going to sign a new deal. And we may need to make this move happen sooner. He's also going to look at what's going on with the Senators management and do they have the capacity and the capabilities to build a successful team. If he doesn't have confidence in the Sens management to construct a team around him, then why wouldn't Erik Karlsson walk? And if he's going to walk, Sens have no choice but to trade him. This is a set of circumstances that's going to be fascinating to watch play out. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. And it's equally wild as to what might happen with the Edmonton Oilers, who are bringing in now another former Oiler and Paul Coffey to be part of the forensic audit as to what went wrong with the team. Another pair of eyes. Okay, I guess that's good. Montreal may have the biggest job on their hands because that's a team that, and I rarely suggest that this is a good idea, but maybe they're the team that has to blow it all up. Unfortunately, the day after Hockey Day in Canada, there's not necessarily a lot of reason to celebrate for some Canadian fan bases. And it's sad. There's a few other teams that are going to start to make this realization throughout the NHL also. This is going to be a difficult time down the stretch in the final third of the season for a few. I don't want to be all doom and gloom in the first segment, but because I want to talk about a great story that did occur last night. And the San Jose Sharks are involved in this one, and they get major stick taps for their performance yesterday. Sharks, as many NHL organizations and other great organizations do, were part of granting a wish with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. 15-year-old Hayden Bradley is a big Sharks fan. He has played hockey since he was about 5 years old. He was born with a heart defect, and his wish was to be part of the San Jose Sharks. So the Sharks welcomed him in, signed him to a 3-day contract a couple of days ago. They went above and beyond after that. After signing him to the contract, skates out onto the ice with the team for the warm-up last night. It was planned that he would drop the puck in the ceremonial face-off between the San Jose Sharks and their captain Joe Pavelski and Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, how about Joe Pavelski, who decides he's going to make a last-minute switch? Sharks are busy in a playoff race. They're facing off against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And Joe Pavelski says, you know what, Hayden Bradley, why don't you go over and take the ceremonial face-off against Sidney Crosby? So he does. That's very cool. Hayden Bradley's night continued with the team. He was interviewed on their television broadcast. He was on their radio broadcast, and he was also with the team as they traveled to Anaheim for their game on Sunday against the Ducks. He'll continue on with them. Well done, San Jose Sharks. Good for you. We'll post the story up on our Facebook page. We'll tweet it out as well, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. A little Nashville Predators talk in the next segment with Adam Vingan from the Tennessean. St. Louis Blues talk from Andy Strickland from FSN Midwest coming up this hour. Lots more straight ahead as well. The Sunday edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Busy show today. Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 coming up. Mike Heika with news about the Dallas Stars. Mark Lazerus covers the Chicago Blackhawks. He will join us as well. Andy Strickland with the latest on the St. Louis Blues. And pleased to welcome back from the Tennessean, covering the Nashville Predators. Follow him on Twitter, at Adam Vingan, and Adam joins us on the line now. Adam, it looked like it was off to a great start and things kept moving mostly in the right direction for the Nashville Predators on Saturday night when Kevin Fiala scored in the first minute of the game.
Yeah, it certainly seemed as if they were on their way to rolling, scoring about 35 seconds into the game last night against the Florida Panthers. But then it just, that rest of that first period on both sides was devoid of defense. And the Panthers were able to take a 2-1 lead into the first intermission. But then the Predators' offense, which derived primarily from the line of Kevin Fiala, Nick Bonino, and Calle Jarnkrok, pushed the Predators ahead 4-2 by the end of the second period, and they ultimately won 4-3 for their fifth consecutive victory. It's the second time this season they've won 5 consecutive games, and when you look at the standings, you would think a team that's 28, 11, and 6, that's on a 5-game winning streak, would be pulling away from the competition. And then you look at the Central Division, and they're in first place as of this morning, a point ahead of Winnipeg. They're only 7 points ahead of Minnesota, who's in 6th place in the Central Division. Everybody in that division continues to win. Winnipeg has won 7 of 10. So has Dallas. Colorado's won 9 consecutive games. The thing about the Predators' play this season, and particularly as of late in terms of the pace that they're on, it's almost required, because any little slip up, they're going to fall down those standings pretty quickly just based on how the teams around them are playing. So they needed that victory just like they needed the victory the other night. They were down late to the Arizona Coyotes at home. Ryan Ellis scores a game-tying goal, and they win in a shootout. That's an extra really big point for them. So, you know, it's been nice for the Predators to have this sort of success, but it's, like I said, it's been almost required in order to keep pace with the rest of the division and the league at the top of the standings.
Those of us that are hockey fans are loving the closeness of the Central Division, and that a win here moves you into, or a loss here moves you out of a playoff position on any given day. Is that something that the team is using as their motivating factor, or as a primary motivating factor?
Well, I think if you ask any hockey player, they'll tell you that they try not to look at the standings and take things one game at a time and yada, yada, yada. But I know that hockey players are obviously aware of where they are in the standings. And I remember even earlier this season, I think the last time they won 5 games in a row, which was in early to mid-November, I remember asking Pecorine, are you surprised that with as well as the team has been playing, that they weren't even in first place in the Central Division despite winning 5 games in a row? And he said back then, a couple of months ago, that this was probably what was going to be the norm for the rest of the season, and it played out that way. I mean, there's been some shifting. St. Louis, which got off to a very good start, has slowed as of late. Chicago, has struggled through most of the season, and they're in last place in the Central Division. But for the most part, this is what it's going to be and has been. I don't imagine that any of these teams are going to have any precipitous drop-offs in the next month or so. I really do think that this Central Division race is going to go all the way to the end. And, the Predators, of course, we know what they did last year. This team has never won a Central Division championship. So it would be very important for them, not just to add another banner to their collection, but we've seen how good they've been at home. I mean, they're 16-4-2 at home this season. And a big part of their success last year in the playoffs was their home ice. And they didn't have home ice advantage in any of the 4 series that they played in. So it's important for them to win the Central Division so that they can carry home ice advantage longer through the playoffs, or at all through the playoffs, because like I said, they didn't have it last year. I really do think that is a big motivating factor for this team. On the first day of training camp, that's what they were talking about, was being in a better position in the standings at the end of the season to have home ice advantage. And they're doing it right now, but it's not going to be easy to keep it up.
Adam Vingan is our guest. He covers the Nashville Predators for the Tennessean. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Vingan. Preds victorious over the Florida Panthers on Saturday night. One of the best games of the week coming up should be the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Nashville Predators coming up on Tuesday. It's a highlight that we'll probably see a bunch of times over the next 24 hours or so. The goal from outside the blue line going in past Pecorine. Please tell me he just kind of blew it off last night and didn't worry about it, kind of getting faked out and cheating a little bit on what was thought to be a shoot-in, but the puck wound up in the back of the net. That's not going to bother him, I trust.
I think he's just pleased with the victory. And actually, Todd, that's not the first time this season that the Predators' goaltender has been fooled by that. In November, the Predators won. It was a 4-3 game in overtime in Los Angeles against the Kings, and the Predators were up 3-0 at the end of 2 periods and ultimately needed overtime to win the game after the Kings came back. And I believe it was Christian Folin fired a puck in from near center ice, faking a dump in. UC Saros left the net anticipating the dump in, and the puck went right in the net that was vacated by UC Saros. So it's actually not the first time that the Predators goalie has been fooled by that. But the Predators goalies, they're taught very well by goalie coach Ben Vanderklok. I remember talking to Ben after the game in Los Angeles and asking him his thoughts on the goal that UC Saros allowed, which was, like I said, very similar to what Pecorine did last night. And he said, that's partially on me. I teach them to be aggressive going around the net to stop the puck. And, maybe he thought he had a little bit too long of a leash. But they tightened it up, and UC Saros hasn't been fooled by it. But even the great ones get hoodwinked every once in a while. So I don't think Pecorine is going to think too harshly about it or beat himself up about it, considering they got the win last night.
No, nor should he. I mean, because that is part of his game and the Predators' game, is that he is going to come out and play the puck and be a help to his defensemen and getting the possession of the puck to turn it around and head back the other direction. I don't think they should worry too much about it. The Nashville Predators, I'm sure, are also anxious to have one of their forward superstars come back into the lineup. Do you have an update or the latest on Filip Forsberg and when he might return?
Well, he's about 3 weeks into the 4 to 6 week timeline that the Predators quoted when he suffered an injury on December 29th against the Minnesota Wild. And it's an upper body injury. It's been reported to be a hand injury. He's been skating, but of course you don't need your upper body to be able to skate. But he was on the ice with the team at the morning skate yesterday. So the hope is that, maybe soon after the All-Star break, he'll be able to get back into the lineup. And while he's been skating, he has been stick handling and shooting. Not very hard, but, it is a positive sign if it is a hand injury that he's able to do that. So the Predators haven't missed a beat without him, at least record-wise. I mean, they're 6-1-1 in the 8 games that they haven't had Filip Forsberg. And, always the way that they've won those games haven't been pretty. And that's why last night's 4-goal victory, 4-3, scoring 4 goals, was good for them, because their offense had been maybe sputtering a bit without Filip Forsberg. They've been able to win despite the lack of high-powered offense. But, you see players like Kevin Fiala step up last night and have 2 goals. And he scored the game-winning goal against the Vegas Golden Knights early last week. Nick Bonino had his first 3-point game, his first multi-point game with the Predators, a goal and 2 assists last night. Kalle Järnkrok, 3 assists last night. PK Subban tying his goal total from last season last night with his 10th of the year. They're getting the contributions that they need from everybody. Scott Hartnell has scored as well recently. Ryan Ellis, coming back from injury, had a goal the other night and an assist against the Coyotes. So they're getting those contributions from other players. I mean, they also missed Victor Arvidsson for 2 games, but he was back in the lineup last night. So they're doing well without Filip. This team hasn't been healthy 100% all season, because Ryan Ellis, of course, missed the first 38 games of the season. He returned after Filip Forsberg got hurt. So they actually haven't played a game yet with both Ryan Ellis and Filip Forsberg in the lineup. And they're the 4th best team in the National Hockey League. So you wonder, when Filip is ready to come back in the lineup, assuming everybody remains healthy, how good this team can be at full strength.
And that's the intriguing part about the Nashville Predators. Their offense, because of injuries and not having everyone in the line, they're kind of middle of the pack in terms of the NHL in terms of generating offense and goals per game, but their defense has been stellar. A great defense core, good goaltending. So with Filip Forsberg coming back, it may address the depth and scoring throughout the lineup that has been sought by the Nashville Predators. Fingers crossed. I suspect they're maybe looking for a bit of a surge in the final stretch of this season if everyone is healthy.
Right. I do think that you look at last year, for example, they had their defensemen in and out of the lineup, throughout the season. PK Subban missed 16 games because of injury. Ryan Ellis missed a handful of games. Roman Josi missed a handful of games. Last night, Mattias Ekholm was ill and missed last night's game. It was the first game he's missed since the 2014-15 season. And statistic that I've been keeping track of is that they've played 127 regular season games since the start of last year. And last night was the 73rd time out of those 127 games that they've played without at least one of their top 4 defensemen in the lineup. And you saw last year, all 4 played all 22 playoff games and how great they were and pushing the Predators to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. This team really found its footing in the second half of last season. They've been much more consistent this year, but if they continue to surge, as you mentioned, and get a full lineup and potentially tinker with the lineup come the trade deadline late next month, this team is in prime position to be better positioned for a playoff push than they were last year, even though they made it very close to winning the Stanley Cup.
Adam Vingan from the Tennessean covering the Nashville Predators and breaking out the fancy stats. At Adam Vingan is how you follow him on Twitter. Good stuff today, Adam. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
All right, Todd. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Adam Vingan. That is a remarkable statistic about the Nashville Predators and their defensemen. Philip Forsberg coming back, a little more offensive punch on 2 or 3 lines. That is good news for the Preds, who, as Adam mentioned, are up on top of the Central as we get set to begin play on Sunday with 5 games on the National Hockey League schedule. Blues suffered a loss last night that kind of shocked and surprised a bunch of people. Went down at the hands of the Arizona Coyotes. We'll talk to Andy Strickland in the next segment about that. Lots to get into. Hawks talk with Mark Lazerus. Dallas Stars rolled up a big win in Buffalo. Mike Heika has the latest. And Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, all coming up on the program. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design, and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or iHeartRadio. They're available on the Hockey Unfiltered app as well. And that includes our little Saturday podcast, little midweek hockey talk that drops Wednesday afternoon with the latest going on in the National Hockey League. Busy program after a 13-game Saturday, 5 more on Sunday. One of the games we want to have a closer look at, the St. Louis Blues and the Arizona Coyotes. Blues falling 5-2 to Arizona. Andy Strickland covers the Blues for FSN Midwest. At Andy Strickland is how you follow him on Twitter. Andy, holding true to my word, the first question is, so what was that last night? That was not a pleasant surprise by the St. Louis Blues and their play in the game against the Coyotes.
No, that was a low point for sure, Todd. I mean, I'm at practice right now. Normally on a Sunday they wouldn't skate, but they're out on the ice today, and it's pretty quiet in terms of the noise that you're hearing down at ice level. You're seeing a lot of one-on-one battle drills. I mean, last night was a head scratcher in so many different ways. I mean, it's so difficult to decide, where you want to start in terms of analyzing or breaking this one down, Todd. They just didn't look ready to play. I mean, sometimes you can overlook teams that you see in the standings that are on pace to Arizona on pace for about 51 points. That's less than what the Blues have right now. And whether you call them trap games or whatever, it's unacceptable. It shouldn't happen. It can't happen. And if you're ever going to have a wake-up, Todd, you would think that would be it. And I'm real eager to see how this team performs when they get back out there on Tuesday against Ottawa.
Yeah, you want to pay attention to it, but I don't think you want to overreact to a loss against Arizona as well. They do have, like every team in the NHL, they have some talent, they have some skilled players, but the Blues' record against Arizona was good. The Blues had won their first two games after the break and had done so well. You just for some reason they weren't mentally sharp, and you know what? That's going to happen in 82 games. And I suspect the concern for Mike Yeo is that it only happens this one time, and the rest of the season we don't see it again.
But this has been a little bit of an ongoing. I don't want to call it an issue, Todd. And I think you're right. You don't want to overreact, and it's not just about who the opponent is. I mean, they could have been playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Washington Capitals, Tampa Bay. No matter who it is, you find yourself down 4-0 on a Saturday night in front of a packed home crowd where you haven't been winning consistently on home ice. I think that's been something this team has wanted to correct. I mean, they want to get back to establishing themselves as a dominating team at the Scott Trade Center on home ice. And they haven't been able to do that. Last night you thought maybe after having a couple of games where you find ways to get points and win games in Ontario. I mean, you go back to the first game after the bye week when they're playing Toronto. They're down 1-0. They tie the game up in the last minute of regulation and find a way to win it in overtime. Normally, from a psyche standpoint, that can certainly, kind of carry you, lead to, you gaining more and more confidence as a hockey club. And then you follow that up with a pretty good performance against Ottawa. The biggest issue for this hockey club has been special teams. They haven't been scoring nearly as much as they had early in the season. A lot of that has to do with the injury to Jaden Schwartz. He's out there today. Practicing really for the first time. He was out there with the team yesterday in the morning skate, but Todd, this is the first time he's been involved in any type of contact whatsoever. So he's obviously very, very close to returning. I don't know if we'll see him Tuesday night, but I think Thursday could be a possibility for Jaden Schwartz to get back in there, which again is a real positive sign for this hockey club to get guys, kind of slotted where they were early in the season and really where they should be, and get that chemistry back that he showed early on in the season with Tarasenko and Shem when they were truly one of the more dominating lines in the entire league.
Andy Strickland is our guest, covers the St. Louis Blues for FSN Midwest. At Andy Strickland is how you follow him on Twitter. Blues went down to the Arizona Coyotes on Saturday. Next contest is coming up against the Ottawa Senators. Since you're talking about injuries, that's great news about Jaden Schwartz coming back. Zach Sanford is also getting closer for the St. Louis Blues. Is there a target for him yet who hasn't played this season? But he's also getting closer, I understand.
Yeah, he's very close. I mean, he's been skating for at least 3 weeks now, 2 to 3 weeks, Todd. So I'm going to ask him back today in terms of, I know when he first started skating, he thought that the timetable, you go back to September when he suffered the injury, it was originally believed to be 5 to 6 months. And then when he started skating about 3 weeks ago, he said that had been reduced to maybe 4.5 months. So I think we're close to being there. Obviously when he started skating and practicing, you knew it was going to take a few more weeks for him to be ready to play in an NHL game, but he is close. And I'm glad you bring him up because nobody really talks about Zach Sanford. I mean, obviously so much attention on Jaden Schwartz because he's a star in this league and certainly was playing as well as anybody in the NHL. I thought he was, a contender, Todd, at least early on in the season for the Hart Trophy. I mean, he was playing back good. And you look at where the Blues were at from a standing standpoint, they were as good as any team in the league, had as many points as any team in the league, and were just rolling, and he was the main part of it. I mean, he's obviously their most important player. You look at how they played since he's been out of the lineup, and then you look at how he played when he was in the lineup and, what he did for a guy like Braden Shen, who's going to go to his first All-Star game. I mean, he's so important and so underrated. But Zach Sanford's a guy who, coming into this season, projected to be part of their top 3 lines, part of their group of 9. That's how Doug Armstrong likes to call it. He came over in the Kevin Shattenkirk trade, And I think he's got way more offensive upside than people realize in terms of his size and his skill level for a young player who's still finding his way in the National Hockey League. Believe me, he's going to help this hockey team a lot once he gets back and he's ready to play.
A little more depth, getting everyone slotted, as you put it, the way they should be. That's definitely going to be a help for the St. Louis Blues. The other question with the Blues is one that popped up last year in midseason, but it's been goaltending again with Jake Allen, who had some struggles, and Mike Yeo started to lean on Carter Hutton a little bit as of late. Again, I don't want to overreact to this. I think that Jake Allen will be fine and he'll find his game. But when you suffer a loss, when you're not expected to, like last night, everybody kind of looks at other aspects of the Blues and what's going on right now.
Well, defensively, they haven't been as sharp. I mean, last night, it's hard to fault Carter Hutton for those 3 goals that he was in the net for. The 4th goal given up. First one given up by Jake Allen was a terrible goal. Short side, that should never go in. Jake Allen had this issue last year in January where his game really dipped off. If you remember last year, Todd, they left him home. They didn't even take him on the road to a game in Winnipeg. But he was able to recapture his game, and down the stretch last year and into the first round against Minnesota, he was one of the top goaltenders in the league, if not the best goaltender in the league. And early this year, when this team was playing their best hockey, I mean, he was a huge part of it as well, and he looked like he was ready to turn the page and truly kind of evolve into elite company among NHL goaltenders. And, that's kind of been the path that he's been on throughout his entire career. I mean, you look at his resume. I mean, he was a top goaltender in the CHL. He was a top goaltender in the American Hockey League, where he led the AHL in every important statistical category and truly dominated that level, which is normally what you want to see out of a guy who's got #1 goaltender aspirations in the National Hockey League. And then what he did last year, and obviously into the playoffs. I think Marty Brodeur had a lot to do with that after Ken Hitchcock was fired. Remember, they also fired Jim Corsi. He was their goaltending coach. Marty Brodeur turned in his suit for a tracksuit. He's on the ice, and he's working with the goaltenders. And the play of Carter Hutton and Jake Allen obviously responded to whatever instruction they were getting from Marty Brodeur. But right now, I mean, Jake Allen's got to find his game once again. I mean, it's kind of up to him. I've been watching him during practice today. He's been working with his goaltending coach, David Alexander, who's been his longtime coach. I mean, this coach from when he was a teenager growing up in New Brunswick. They brought him here, and obviously he's been working with the Blues. So they're going to need Jake Allen in the worst way. I think the positive news is he's shown in the past when his game does drop off, he's able to get it back, and you just got to hope he does, because as well as Carter Hutton has been playing, let's face it, this team's going to go as far as Jake Allen can take him.
Yeah, absolutely. The other stat that jumps out for the St. Louis Blues when you look at it is the ranking of their power play. I know it's had ups and downs. Jaden Schwartz being out of the lineup certainly doesn't help that, but that's also got to be another area of focus for the Blues.
It's been a huge area of focus. In fact, Doug Armstrong publicly for the first time said that they got to get this thing figured out. I mean, 14% is not going to cut it when you consider the talent they throw out there. Now, they had a couple of power play goals last night, but still, they haven't scored a 5-on-3 goal, Todd. I mean, they had a number of opportunities. I mean, they haven't scored a 5-on-3 goal. They had a minute and 17 seconds the other night, 5-on-3 hockey against Ottawa, and they couldn't score. I think they had one shot on goal in their 5-on-3 power play. So for whatever reason, they're not getting it done. Way too much standing around. They just need to simplify things even more so than what they've done thus far. And stop looking to Tarasenko to be the guy to just shoot pucks from distance and expect them to go in. You got to get traffic in front. You got to outnumber the opposition. I mean, nothing changes in terms of what we've said for years and years and years in terms of what it takes to be an effective power play. But you got to have everybody on the same page. And I think if you talk to a number of the top players this year, I think that's where the frustration comes from on the power play. I don't think they have been on the same page. I think they draw up plans or plays. I think there is a purpose that they go out there with, but if you don't execute it, then the result's going to be what it is, which is having a power play that you're going to need as well, not just goaltending. You better have your power play going as well down the stretch here of the season if this team's going to make any realistic push towards being a contending team in the National Hockey League.
Anxious to see what the Blues come up with next when they host the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday. Andy Strickland from FSN Midwest, at Andy Strickland, to follow him on Twitter. Good stuff as always, Andy. I appreciate the time and great conversation. We'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
Likewise, Todd. Anytime. You take care.
Appreciate the time from Andy Strickland from FSN Midwest. Blues having a practice on a Sunday and doing a few battle drills because there wasn't much fight with them last night against the Arizona Coyotes. They are one of a few teams that have questions and struggles in the National Hockey League. We'll look deeper into that coming up in our next segment. Just before we take the break, too, some sad news to pass along from USA Hockey. USA Hockey officials are confirming that USA Hockey executive and the general manager for the men's national team for the upcoming Winter Olympics, Jim Johansson, has passed away at the age of 53. He passed away early this morning. Our condolences, our thoughts with his friends and family and to all those involved with USA Hockey. Sad news that Jim Johansson has passed away at the age of 53. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 D's. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag #HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag #HUDogoftheDay. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis Sunday edition continues. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Stephen Laidlaw will join us in hour number 2, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, a little help in your fantasy hockey pool. Mike Heika of the Dallas Morning News with the latest on the Stars. Dallas beat up big on Buffalo on Saturday. 7-1 was the final. Mark Lazerus will join us as well with the latest on the Chicago Blackhawks. Hawks, losers 7-3 the final to the New York Islanders on Saturday. Mark, by the way, also the author of one of our former book of the months, this month's book, The California Golden Seals, A Tale of White Skates and Red Ink. Steve Courier, go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and check it out now. Great stories about the California Golden Seals and their arrival in the National Hockey League. Weren't in the league for a long time, but they made an impact. They are an interesting part of NHL history. A 13-game Saturday with a lot of interesting games and a lot of interesting stories to follow. Yesterday was Hockey Day in Canada. There was the focus on it's great, it's wonderful, the great game, and there's also an awful lot of difficulty for Canadian NHL teams this year, which the Hockey Day in Canada surrounds in its telecast. The Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leaf, the Sens, have had a miserable year. What's going to happen with Erik Karlsson going forward? That's going to be an interesting one. Montreal Canadiens have had a terrible year, and the Edmonton Oilers, after so much promise, after so much was expected of the Edmonton Oilers this year, people touting them as preseason picks to make it to the Stanley Cup final, after a decade in the woods and not being able to find their way out, it looked like they had burst through a season ago. And this year, they were going to be ready to take that next step, weren't they? No. No, they weren't. They've won 3 straight games. They've had their break, and everybody thinks, oh, there we are, talented players. Jesse Puljujarvi had a 3-point game on Saturday. Jujhar Khaira scored a really nice goal for the Edmonton Oilers last night. Connor McDavid was doing Connor McDavid things that you see on a nightly basis. But remember, you're playing the Vancouver Canucks. Let's not go too quick. Leon Draisaitl was also good. Darnell Nurse has looked great as of late. Notice something here about the Edmonton Oilers? All young players. This is where the solution to your issues are. This is not the problem. This is where your future is. The big what went wrong has been going on now for a while for the Edmonton Oilers. They didn't want to react too quickly going into the break, even though they look miserable at times. Paul Coffey is apparently another set of eyes for the Edmonton Oilers to take a look at what's gone on. Nobody knows what his role is going to be yet, but okay, fine. Let him watch. Let him offer some ideas and recommendations because they can maybe use a few. But here's the other thing about the Edmonton Oilers. They have a bunch of bad contracts, and that's not getting talked about enough. They have a bunch of contracts that are a burden. I got no problem with big deals for players that are going to impact and go forward for years to come. Connor McDavid, no worries there. Leon Draisaitl, they're good. They're not on the list of bad contracts. Here's the ones that I put on the list. Milan Lucic, 5 more years, $6 million per. Andrej Sekera, or Sekera if you prefer, 3 more years at $5.5 million per. Chris Russell, oh, he's a bargain. 3 more years, $4 million per. Oh, and you got Zach Kassian for 2 more years at just under $2 million. So that's the lower. There's your problem. These deals are the problem. Sekera was brought in, too much money. They were desperate for defense. Same thing with Chris Russell. Milan Lucic, that was a mistake. Giving him that much money and that much term, it was Edmonton needs a physical presence. Edmonton needs a physical presence to ride shotgun with Connor McDavid. Well, maybe you need physical players, but they got to be able to keep up with your superstar. If he's waiting for you all the time, that's not the problem. Now, Edmonton dumped Taylor Hall for a defenseman. Trade wasn't horrible. Larson's a good player. But how good would Taylor Hall look in an Edmonton Oiler uniform now? The Jordan Eberle deal, that sure didn't help. So what went wrong with Edmonton? Here it is. You overvalued some players. You overpaid players and free agents. You moved out the wrong players to save money. And you re-signed other players with limited ability, limited talent that can offer limited contributions. The growth and maturity of your young players doesn't always go in a straight line. It doesn't always move forward in a nice, smooth, easy, natural progression. In their process of moving forward, sometimes they'll veer to one side a little bit before realizing, oh, wait, I need to get back on track and focus and move in the right direction. Leon Draisaitl is the perfect example of this. He came up and surprised and looked good and played well for a while, but then it was, you know what? He needs more time to season and improve. Send him down. Stayed for a while, but got sent to the minors. He learned, he came back, and his motivation was, I don't want to get sent back down again. I want to be here to stay. Now, yeah, you paid him a lot of money for a lot of years, but that's okay. He's a talented player. Jesse Puljujarvi, same kind of thing. He was thought that it's great. He'll be able to, he's a high draft choice. He's going to have an immediate impact. Hasn't worked out that way, but you see there's potential. He's starting to come around. Players develop at different speeds. This is why when the tandem of Chiarelli and McClellan took over, I said to Edmonton, you got to be patient. You can't get immediate gratification. I know you've been miserable for a decade, but because you bring in 2 new guys doesn't mean it's a magic fix. They went from super stinky to high flying last year, and everybody lost their mind about, oh, here we go, this is it, everything's fantastic now. It sometimes happens that you take 5 steps forward and you take a couple of steps back. Now you've got to fix some bad choices that were made. And that's on management. That's not on the players. I still have faith in the coach. I still think Todd McLellan is a good coach. I think he needs better assets to work with. And if you think Peter Chiarelli had some work to do last summer in terms of contracts, yeah, you want to sign Connor McDavid to that big extension and make sure that's done. And Leon Draisaitl was in the same position. You need to have him signed going forward. He needs to be a center, too. He doesn't need to be playing on Connor McDavid's wing. You need other players. You need better players on your roster. They've got some work to do this summer. They got to try to shed themselves of some of those bad contracts. Milan Lucic, overpaid, too long right from the start. Sekera, same thing. Chris Russell, great guy, give you all he's got. He's a third pair defenseman. Too much money, too much term, that's on management. Now, Peter Chiarelli didn't make all these decisions, I get that, but he's got to fix them, and that's going to take some time. I mentioned the Montreal Canadiens as well, and they are a story unto themselves. We could do the whole second hour on them, but the short version, they are a team that is in disarray. It started 1.5 years ago, and the complimentary phrase is old school, but the better description of their general manager is stuck in the past and wanting to make a specific kind of team with certain players, no matter what is currently going on in the National Hockey League. And it ain't the image that is in his mind. The NHL today is very different than when Marc Bergevin was hired 6 years ago, and he's still stuck there. He hasn't evolved. Of the 3 teams, Montreal, Ottawa, and Edmonton, that need significant change, Montreal's the biggest. I cannot remember the last time I advocated a team blow it up and start over. Anyone and everyone and everything is available. Montreal might be that team. Yeah, I'm including Carey Price because I'm not sure that he'll be the goaltender you need him to be by the time they're any good again. Montreal's played the Bruins 3 times in the last week or just over a week, and they've shown they can play reasonably well for short stretches, but they have no hope of challenging the way the current NHL state of play goes on. Drastic measures need to be taken. Oh, the fans won't stand for such a rebuild. They've got high expectations for that. They're not going to be patient. Said the same thing about Toronto. Now they're getting impatient with the Maple Leafs right now because of unrealistic expectations. The league has changed too much. They need to change. They need to keep up. They are only getting further and further behind. We'll try and shift gears and talk about some more positive stories that are going on in the NHL in hour number 2. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Hour number 2 of the program right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you miss the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code GETTHESAVINGS. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with SeatGiant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Hour number 2 of the Sunday program underway. It is a busy one, loaded up with guests. Good info ahead on the Chicago Blackhawks. What's going on with the Hawks? Who thought the Hawks would be in last place in the Central Division in mid to late January as we entered into the season just a couple of months ago? Mark Lazerus from the Chicago Sun-Times will join us with the latest on the Hawks and where we go from here. Dallas Stars seem to be a team that is rounding into form, progressing, getting better as the season goes along. Mike Heika, the Dallas Morning News, will join us. We'll get the latest on the Stars, who beat up big time on the Buffalo Sabres on Saturday. And, of course, on Sunday, our regular visit from Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, the only place where you'll get the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. I just keep getting so close. I just like to win a week. I am having one of those miserable seasons I was talking about in the last hour with Montreal, with Ottawa, with Edmonton. I had such high hopes going in this year in terms of fantasy, but I have now past the midway point of the year resigned myself to the fact that it's not going to happen this year. I'm not going to have that late season turnaround. I'm not going to have a goaltender who is going to go on one of those incredible runs of winning 15 out of 16 games and my team will magically get itself into the playoff. No, I'm looking ahead to the coming year and what I'll have to do differently. Yes, I'm being realistic in my expectations already. Unlike some others in the NHL, but there are also some others that are focusing on next year and things that they should be looking at. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports are the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. We're live every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern at hockeyunfiltered.com. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, live on Facebook, a Periscope, YouTube Live, and it's all powered by Primetime Radio. Busy hour ahead. And I want to talk about some positive stories, some good things that are happening in the NHL because there was a bunch of negative in the last hour, worthy of discussion and interesting topics, but it's also disappointing in a few areas. How about the Colorado Avalanche, who keep on rolling? 9 straight victories for the Avs. Nathan MacKinnon, great again. Jonathan Bernier, great again. Remember what I said yesterday, though. Talking about the Avalanche as they were getting set for their contest. The Avalanche now go on the road for 6 straight games. 9 of the next 10 are on the road. Head coach Jared Bednar is aware of it. He mentioned it a few days ago. The role is good. We're happy. We're winning games. We're playing the way we should be. We're getting the performance out of our players that we expect to. Our real test is coming. So he's already been giving his team that message. Keep doing what you're doing, but now you got to take it on the road. Let's check back in 2 weeks and see where they are in the standings. I'm happy for them. The Avs have taken a ton of crap from everybody. But this is the starting point of something good for the Colorado Avalanche. And I'm anxious to see where it goes from here. Congratulations to Ken Appleby, emergency call-up for the New Jersey Devils. Got into the game yesterday against the Philadelphia Flyers. Corey Schneider has been sick as hell for a few days. Apparently, Amanda Stein was just tweeting that he's out on the ice. Skated yesterday, out on the ice again today, but he was still too weak to even get in the lineup yesterday for the New Jersey Devils as they were playing the Philadelphia Flyers. So Keith Kincaid got the start again against Philly. Philly came out blazing at the start of that game. They scored 3 goals in the first period. They were up 3-0 about 12 and a half minutes into the first period. And on the third goal from Ivan Provorov, Kincaid did the splits trying to make the save. It was a valiant effort, but then he couldn't get up afterwards. And it did not look good. Keith Kincaid had to be assisted from the ice. And in goes Ken Appleby for his first NHL action. Now, he was the emergency call-up, and he's playing with Binghamton, and his numbers aren't that great. He's 5-8-1, a 3.21 goals against, an 8.88 save percentage, but he's the guy, and good for him. He did a great job, gave him everything he had, and good for him. Stopped everything. Stopped all 24 shots that went his way. Good for him. That's quite a debut. Ken Appleby asked after the game what he was thinking when he sees Kincaid go down 12 and a half minutes into the first period, and it's like, oh, that does not look good. When you see a goaltender who makes a stretch or does the splits and has that kind of torture inflicted on his body, you know, you can usually see when he's going to have to come out of the game. And that's what you saw in this play. So Appleby asked the trainer on the bench if he said, do you think I should maybe stretch or something and get ready? And the trainer said, yeah, I think so. So he did, and in he went. Funny moment in the Devils broadcast as well with this game. Every NHL building, every NHL team has an emergency goaltender that is in the building in case of such a set of circumstances, as we saw yesterday with the Philadelphia Flyers and New Jersey Devils. There's always an emergency guy in the building who can get dressed quickly if they do need another goaltender. So there was, so the emergency goaltender gets his gear on, throws on the Devils sweater, and sits down on the bench, and they cut to him on the Devils broadcast. And Steve Cangelosi, who's doing the play-by-play, I like Steve Cangelosi, by the way. I think he does a really good job for the Devils. Here's the Devils and he says, there's the Devils emergency goaltender, our emergency backup. We know nothing about him. We don't even know his name. It was hilarious. It was really, it was really funny. That was a great, but good for Ken Appleby for going in, and it looks like he's going to stick with the team for a while because that does not look good for Keith Kincaid of the Devils. He's not out. Corey Schneider should be back. He was getting healthy. He was out on the ice, but just still recovering and a bit weak. Now, also of the positive sense from action on Saturday, the Boston Bruins got another victory. Another win, their third one in just over a week over the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night. That's now 15 consecutive games where they have accumulated at least 1 point. 15 straight games they have not lost in regulation. It is a remarkable run. They are showing no sign of slowing down. Now, last week, just about this time, our friend Joe Haggerty from NBC Sports Boston joined us, and we were talking about the Bruins and all the things that are going well with them, and how well this team has been playing, whether it's great goaltending. Charlie McAvoy has been outstanding. Zdeno Chara has been rejuvenated by mentoring and grooming another young defensive standout for the Boston Bruins. David Pasternak has been great. Patrice Bergeron. Oh, and just go down the lineup. David Krejci has been good. Brad Marchand has been sensational. Jake DeBrusk has been good. And I asked Joe a week ago, think about the possibility of the Bees running down Tampa for top spot in the division. 1 week ago, they were 10 points back last Sunday, but they had 4 games in hand, and the Lightning had just received word that they were going to be without their potential Norris Trophy winning defenseman, Victor Hedman, for a significant period of time. He's going to be out for several more weeks. Now, the Lightning had their bye. They've come back. They've lost a couple of games. Now, when you think about it, just a week ago, 10 points back. Sure, they've got some games in hand, but is it realistic that Boston is going to be able to run down the Tampa Bay Lightning? They've been on a great run. Tampa's been sensational all year. I don't know. Joe didn't think it was very likely. I was thinking, I guess it's possible, but what are the chances of it happening? 1 week later, Boston is now just 3 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have one game in hand. That is an enormous swing in, yes, just 1 week. And yes, it is possible. It now looks like it could be the Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning battling for top spot in the division. Only a week ago, 10 points back. Sure, some games in hand, but Tampa had a big cushion in the Atlantic. Now, not nearly as comfortable. One game in hand, 3 points back. Just because I know you're wondering now after I've set the table like this, that's a big swing. Boston has 2 games against Tampa coming up in March on the 17th and the 29th, one home, one away. And then they have another game against the Tampa Bay Lightning on April the 3rd. Those could be very important games. Those could be the games that decide who finishes number 1 in the Atlantic and who finishes number 2. Just a week ago, 10 points back, and now look at them. I mentioned this story before, and I want to do it again because it's worthy of mention. It's a terrific job by the San Jose Sharks organization. This is a team that gets it. Fighting for a playoff spot. Calgary's nipping at their heels in the Pacific. And last night, they are taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Sharks and their organization grant a wish with the Make-A-Wish Foundation for 15-year-old Hayden Bradley, who is a big Sharks fan and was born with a heart defect, has played hockey since he was a young boy and continues to play hockey. He was supposed to go out onto the ice. He skated out during the warm-up. He's got the full gear on, and the grin on his face from ear to ear is something to behold. So he skates out. He's supposed to, as part of what's taking place, he's supposed to drop the puck for the ceremonial face-off. Joe Pavelski, the captain of the San Jose Sharks, and Sidney Crosby, the captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, are going to stand there. They'll snap pictures, and it'll be a nice photo opportunity. Well, Pavelski calls the audible and says, you know what? Why don't you go out and you take the face-off? So Hayden Bradley in his skates, the grin, if it was possible, gets even bigger. He stands in and takes the ceremonial face-off against Sidney Crosby. Great job. Well done. Now, this will continue through the weekend for Hayden Bradley as well. He was interviewed on both the Sharks radio and TV broadcast last night, and he traveled with the team to Anaheim as the San Jose Sharks get set for their Sunday matchup against the Anaheim Ducks. Well done. Well done, San Jose. San Jose and Anaheim. What a 5 on the Sunday schedule. Philly and Washington in an early start. Vegas and Carolina. Vancouver and Winnipeg also in action. Oh, a couple of notes as well. It looks like the Vancouver Canucks have activated Bo Horvat. He has been out of the lineup for a long time. Good for the Vancouver Canucks. And the New York Rangers are in Los Angeles. That is the late game on Sunday. Can the LA Kings find a way to win? 6 straight losses for the LA Kings? Man, there's a team that needs some victories. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, we will tweet out the link to the story that we were just talking about with Hayden Bradley. Shows him taking the face. That's a really nice story. Coming up this hour, Stephen Laidlaw will join us with the Fantasy 5, #Fantasy 5. Mike Heika from the Dallas Morning News with the latest on the Stars, and Mark Lazerus in our next segment, joining us to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks and what lies ahead for the Chicago Blackhawks this year. Who thought the Hawks would be at the bottom of the Central? Not me. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues. A busy hour straight ahead. A 5-game Sunday on the schedule. A busy Saturday with 13 games. One of those games involving the Chicago Blackhawks. They fell big to the New York Islanders. 7-3 was the final. Mark Lazerus covers the Chicago Blackhawks for the Sun-Times. You can follow him on Twitter at Mark Lazerus, and he joins us now. Mark, everybody's saying the right thing after the game, that there's got to be more urgency. There's got to be a commitment. We have to do more. It's got to happen. But we've been hearing this for too long now from the Chicago Blackhawks, and I think everybody's kind of getting to the point where I'm not sure that this is going to happen this season for this team.
Well, that's right. I mean, they've been saying all the right things all this time about urgency and about effort and about, this kind of bunker mentality they need to have in this dire situation. And then they come out and they have a lot of games like yesterday where they just looked awful and there's no energy at all. They played well for 2.5 minutes, took a penalty, and then it all fell apart. They lost 4-0 to Detroit in one of their worst games of the year going into the break. They get 5 days off. They come back, with everyone in the Central Division winning all the time. They know the urgency. They know the situation. And then they lay an egg. It's becoming more and more disconcerting that you wonder if this team really has the fortitude and the ability to dig themselves out of this hole they're in.
Is it a mental thing, or is it a talent and ability thing up and down the roster as you see it?
Well, I think it's a little of both. I mean, this isn't these unflappable veteran Blackhawks of recent vintage. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that have been through all those ups and downs. Most of the guys in this team are 25 and younger and haven't really experienced any kind of significant playoff adversity or even regular season adversity. So you can point to Kane and Taves and Keith and Seabrook and say, well, they've been through this before, but nobody else on the team has. So that's part of it. Part of it is you don't have your best goalie. Corey Crawford is one of the 2 or 3 best goalies in the world, was a Vezina candidate this year before he got hurt. And now you got a couple of first-year guys in Anton Forsberg and Jeff Glass who are playing average hockey, and they're playing fine. They're not awful, but the Hawks are used to getting a .930 save percentage out of their goalie, a guy who can steal them games, and these two have not been able to steal games yet. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. The Hawks are not terrible this year. They're above 500. They have a positive goal differential. We've seen them play great games against teams like Winnipeg and the Rangers. They just can't seem to do it on a consistent basis, and that's the problem. They're also not getting the benefit of having the Colorado Avalanche, the weak sister in the division, like they were a year ago, and some other teams in the division that were a little softer to play against, and the Hawks with their elite talent level were able to get easier victories than they are this year. And you mentioned that the competition is one thing in the Central Division, but
that's not the only thing with the Chicago Blackhawks this year. And maybe it's as simple as Corey Crawford was covering up so many of the mistakes that were made early on in the season.
Well, that's the biggest thing. I mean, you talk about last year, and the Hawks won 50 games. It was the second winningest season in team history, and then they flamed out in 4 games against the Predators. And the common theme, Joel Quenneville told me this, Patrick Kane has said this, is that Crawford was masking a lot of things, that they weren't nearly as good as their record suggested. And now they're probably not as bad as their record suggests this year, but it's kind of gone the other way, where they just can't seem to catch a break. They can't get on a roll, and they keep stubbing their toe with lousy efforts like they had last night. This team is just not very good right now. They're an average team in an above-average division. Everyone in this division is above 500. Everyone has a positive goal differential. Like you mentioned, Colorado, who was one of the worst, there was a 36-point deficit between first-place Minnesota and Colorado at this point last year. There's now 11 points separating first from last in this division. It's just crazy right now.
It's great for us to watch, but the Hawks are having their troubles with it, obviously. From the Chicago Sun-Times, Mark Lazerus is with us. At Mark Lazerus is how you follow him on Twitter. You were also the lead last week in talking about Corey Crawford and the possibility that he may not just be out for a little while. He may be gone for the year because the Hawks are very worried about his status. And I guess that's, in one sense, you want to be able to put that behind you, and that think about it in the sense that he's not going to come back. We have to do this with what we have. And we have seen teams do that in the past. They will lose a star player, but the impact won't be as significant as you would have thought. Maybe this is, though, just too big an obstacle for the Hawks to overcome.
He's the most indispensable player on the team, and nobody knows when he's coming back. It's been over a month now, or about a month now, and he has not been on the ice yet. He hasn't done any working out yet. He has made, basically, as Joel Quenneville said the other day, he's made no progress so far. So even if he starts getting better, you're still probably weeks out from him being ready to play in games again, and by that point, it might be too late. So, if the Hawks put him on long-term injured reserve, then he's probably done for the season, because then they're going to think about using that cap space. As long as he's only on regular injured reserve, they're holding out hope that he can return. But what is he going to come back to if he does return? This team right now, at this rate, if he was to come back in something like March, it would be too late. They have to figure out with the group they have now, or they have to go out and get some, a shutdown defenseman or another goalie or something. The way this group is constituted right now, it's not going to matter when Corey Crawford comes back, because it's going to be too late.
Yeah, the other thing with Chicago that you wonder is they've had some other injuries, and I'm kind of, in one sense, waiting for the shoe to drop. Is that okay? What's the drastic move that Stan Bowman makes leading up to the trade deadline? Because he's not likely to sit with what he's got. He's made a move or two. He moved out Richard Panik. The coach has made moves by sitting out almost every defenseman in their lineup. What's the big move that the Hawks try to make leading up to the deadline?
I think that's the decision the Hawks have to make. They desperately need a top 4 defenseman. Who doesn't need a top 4 defenseman these days? They need a shutdown guy. They don't really have a shutdown pairing right now. But do you mortgage your future for a season that's not going anywhere? This team is not one guy away from all of a sudden being a cup contender. Maybe because with the Crawford injury, that gives you an excuse. You punt on this season. You keep your first-round pick for next year, which might be a decent pick this year. I mean, they're not going to get Rasmus Dahlin, but it might be a high-end pick. You kind of just retool for next year, and you don't worry about this year because it's already a lost season. They are not one guy away from suddenly being contenders. So, I mean, they've already given up their second-round pick for next year and their fourth-round pick next year. How much of your future do you want to mortgage for what's probably a lost cause to begin with? That's the difficult decision Stan Bowman needs to make.
And the other part, once you make the decision, you've got to be able to sell that in the PR sense to your fans who have picked up a big level of expectation with the Hawks over the last decade.
Absolutely. I mean, Hawks fans have become spoiled over this. This is not a terrible season. Like I said, they're an above 500 team, but it feels apocalyptic in Chicago because of how high the bar has been raised. Everyone's panicking all the time. They don't know how to handle this because it's been so long. But and that's the way it is. I mean, the Cubs are the biggest thing in town now. The Bears are have a young quarterback and they're getting exciting, and they're always number one. The Hawks are going to lose some traction here if they don't make another. Where it should be or not, PR is always part of it.
Does the other part of or maybe the part of selling that is you've got to push forward the future in terms of your young players next year. Nick Schmaltz, who's made some nice improvements, and he'll be a part of the team moving forward. I love Alex DeBrincat too, but he's got some growing to do. He's got some progression to make. David Kampf has been nice for the Chicago Blackhawks, and but there's still going to be that need on defense, I think.
Well, that's just it. I mean, the cupboard's not bare here. They don't have a ton of prospects, but the ones they do have are pretty high end. You got Dylan Sikora, who's leading college hockey in points per game. He's going to be here probably in March after our Northeastern season ends. You've got guys like DeBrincat and Schmaltz and Hartman and Hinestroza, and Duclair's only 22. You just got him. This is a young team. It's got 4 or 5 really older guys at their core, and they're expensive, but everyone else is pretty young and cheap. And there's reason to believe that this team can make another uptick in the next year or two once those guys take that next step. So, I mean, some of these contracts are burdensome, and, some of them are kind of albatrosses, but they're not movable contracts. This is the rebuild. We're watching the rebuild right now with how many young guys are on this team. When the panic for Duclair trade went down, Dan Bowman pointed out that at this point last year, they had 4 guys 25 and younger. Right now, they got 13. This is the rebuild.
So are you ready to say the Hawks are not going to make the playoffs this year, or are you going to wait a little longer?
Oh, it's too early to say that. I mean, as Phil Quenneville always says, things change quickly in this business. But the odds are really stacked against them right now, and they're going to have to do something that they haven't been able to do all year, which is get hot for a sustained amount of time. They need to win, 8 or 9 out of 10 games here to get themselves back in the mix. And with the goaltending they have and the defense they have, it's asking a lot.
What's the drop dead date?
The drop dead date.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of depends on what the rest of the Central Division is doing, because if every Central Division team won all of its games during the Hawks bye week, if that keeps happening, then they're not catching anybody. So it really depends on if Colorado comes back down to earth, if St. Louis keeps plummeting, if some of these teams can give ground. We saw the Kings went from top in the conference to out of the playoffs. The Hawks need a couple more teams to do that before they can climb back in.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. It's going to be interesting to watch, though. Mark Lazerus of the Chicago Sun-Times covering the Hawks, at Mark Lazerus to follow him on Twitter. Good stuff today, Mark. Thanks for the time, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon about the Hawks.
Hey, anytime.
Thanks, Mark Lazerus. This is a fascinating one to watch, and Mark brings up a great point about the young players and that the rebuild is going on right now. They've got some good young talent. It's just the young players take a little time to mature and move forward and figure out how to grow and figure out what it takes to overcome the adversity. And the other point on top of that, Corey Crawford, maybe now people will start to recognize how important Corey Crawford is and has been to the success of the Chicago Blackhawks. Oh, when you got the defense like that, Charmelson, of course, is now gone, but you've got Keith and Seabrook, and you've got Kane, and you've got Taves, and all that scoring up front. The other player that hasn't been talked about much, but I also think has really been missed by the Chicago Blackhawks, it's the reason that Brandon Saad was brought back from the Columbus Blue Jackets, is Marian Hossa. That is a bigger loss than I think a lot of people understand about the Chicago Blackhawks and what he brought to the team. No longer a 50-goal scorer as he was early on in his career, but he played a game that got you back the puck when you lost it. He was strong defensively. He was an important part of the Chicago Blackhawks. And it's a big loss that he is no longer a part of that team. Also showing young players the way in terms of how to make their way through the National Hockey League. That's an important part. But the Hawks are one team that's worth watching. Detroit is another one in the East that's going to be interesting, worth watching. The Dallas Stars absolutely blasted the Buffalo Sabres. We'll talk to Mike Heika in just a couple of minutes about that. Buffalo's a situation I really think that's worth watching. There has been a lot of restlessness now about the Buffalo Sabres and their performance, changing coaches, management. Oh, when will the suffering end? The most recent acquisitions, Jason Botterill, Phil Housley, they're in. They've only been at it a couple of months, so it's a little too early to start judging them on their progress, but I'm really interested to see how this one plays out. They got pounded on Saturday, 7-1. I mean, if I'm Jason Botterill, I keep Jack Eichel, and everything else is up for grabs. We know Evander Kane is going to move because there are things that have to change and happen with the Buffalo Sabres, and they need a lot of new personnel, and that's going to be part of it. But after a performance like Saturday's at home, If I'm Jason Botterill, I am ready to start hammering away the message that this is not going to be tolerated. This acceptance of losing that seems to have taken over the Buffalo Sabres. That's the hardest thing to change. You can change a few players every year and say, oh, use the cliche phrase, we're going to change the culture. But it's that acceptance of losing. That is the hardest thing to shake for a team that is trying to climb out of years and years of poor seasons. Oh, yeah, look, we got 5 new players. That's great, but you still got 15 guys from last year. And they know all about losing. That's all they know. A bunch of turnover is good, but if I'm Buffalo, you've got to start working on that now. The acceptance of losing isn't to be tolerated. And I blast somebody out. Yeah, they've had a few discussions, and the word has been said by players, yeah, it's time to change and get things moving in the right direction. And it's being quietly said by the Buffalo Sabres, we got to move some players out. Now's the time to start doing it. Because the acceptance of losing has gone on for way too long for Buffalo. That's going to be an interesting situation to watch. And if there isn't a big turnover over the summer, then there's going to be even more unrest. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Stephen Laidlaw before the top of the hour with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. And in the next segment, Mike Heika talking about a big win with the Dallas Stars over the Sabres. That and much more all coming up. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis back after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. The Sunday edition continues up to the top of the hour. A busy one ahead. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Before we're done, Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Get you set for the 5 on the Sunday schedule. A few other things to look back on from yesterday with a busy 13-game Saturday, and we'll set up the week ahead for you as well. One of the big winners early on Saturday, the Dallas Stars smoked the Buffalo Sabres Oilers by a 7-1 score. They are continuing to grow and mature and gain momentum as this season moves along, as their coach Ken Hitchcock wants. Mike Heika covers the Stars for the Dallas Morning News. We always enjoy it when he's with us. At Mike Heika is how you follow him on Twitter. Okay, Mike, in first order of business, let's talk some more about John Klingberg and give him some talk for a Norris Trophy, because his name has probably been mentioned the least of any of the legitimate candidates.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is because of his time on ice. He plays about 23 minutes a game, which, most Norris guys are 25, 26, 27. But he's doing a lot with that time on ice. And it's interesting, I give a lot of credit to Rick Wilson. Hitch does it too, but I think Rick Wilson really aligns the defensemen. But he puts people in positions where they can succeed. So Dan Hamhuis and Greg Patterin are in a very defensive role that, is something that both suits them at this stage of their career. They're not being asked to score any points or anything, just defend. And so then those are the minutes that Klingberg and Esa Lindell are usually able to avoid. And so then when Klingberg and Esa Lindell are out there, then, they get the opportunity to put some points up and play with skilled players. And so those, that's kind of how it's been set up so far, and it's working out great. And Klingberg obviously is just, he's collecting points like you wouldn't believe, and he's playing good, smart hockey against, pretty good players, just not the other team's best players typically.
Yeah, and it's not surprising when we see defensemen come into the National Hockey League. He was terrific when he came in. He was a sensation, and you could see the upside. You could see the promise that this talented young player was going to be able to bring to the Dallas Stars lineup. But then sometimes they lose their way. The Stars were having their difficulties defensively in a number of different areas, and he was just kind of wandering in the woods aimlessly, but he and the Stars' whole defensive structure have been revitalized this year under Rick Wilson and Ken Hitchcock.
Yeah, and what Lindy tried to do, and I actually like Lindy's system. It's really fun to watch. But his theory is that the defensemen join either the rush or, actually will, pinch down in offensive play on the cycle as well, and basically try to outnumber the other team at their net. Lindy very much wanted a 4-on-3 or a 3-on-2 at the other team's net. And that's how the Stars 2 years ago were the highest scoring team in the league. But the problem with that format is when you don't score, you're chasing back. And it is a chaotic way to play defense. And so then you put yourself automatically, Stephen Johns had a lot of trouble with this. You put yourself automatically where you're skating forward to go back into the play, which is not what a defenseman should be doing. And so, then you get back there, then you're trying to find your position, you're trying to change sides of the ice, you're trying to switch with a forward. There's just a lot of moving parts in, tracking back after you've, had a failed offensive opportunity. Well, Ken's system is basically you're back. You're always back. And so then he wants you to push up and close the gap. And then that's how you play defense. So you're almost always in good position. You're not worried about changing with a forward or even changing sides of the ice. You're in the place you're supposed to be, and then you're going to close the gap, stand up, and then play defense that way. And, all of these guys, Stephen Johns has been really good the last month or so, are appreciating that that's a really good way to play defense if you're a defenseman. Now, Ken's system's a lot harder on forwards, because Lindy's system, the defense was always there to support the forward. But now the forwards have to support the defensemen, and so it is a lot harder to do, and that's why you see a guy like Jason Spezza struggling at times, because he asks the forwards to do a lot. But for the defensemen, it sets up very well and puts you in a good place.
Mike Heika is with us, covers the Dallas Stars for the Dallas Morning News. At Mike Heika is how you follow him on Twitter. That's a great illustration of the differences in the system. And it's not that necessarily one is the right way and the other is the wrong way, but I suspect a lot of that depends on the personnel that you have involved. The example you used with Jason Spezza struggling a little bit more with this system versus the one under Lindy Ruff.
Yeah, it's funny. We go back and look at Jamie Alexiak or Patrick Nemeth, and I think, had they started in this system and played 4 years in this system, they'd be much better defensemen now because they would have more basic, simple structure in their game. Right now, Julius Honka, who is an incredibly skilled, great skating defenseman, is in and out of the lineup because this isn't the way he wants to play. He wants to go up and outnumber at the net and play rover at times. And Julius, I think if he would have started 4 years ago in Lindy's system, he would have, been much better suited. So it's interesting. Each coach is going to have their philosophy, and then it's up to the GM to kind of try and work the people, the players in around what the coaches want to do. But it is interesting just for the individual player and how a certain coach fits you better than another coach.
You mentioned the name of Jason Spezza, who just a couple of games ago was a healthy scratch for the Dallas Stars, and it got a lot of people's attention, and I'm sure it got Jason Spezza's attention as well. He comes back into the lineup. He scores immediately. It's the immediate impact of being sat out of the lineup. But I thought that Ken Hitchcock handled it well. I thought that Jason Spezza handled it well, and it was just we need to understand what we're looking for from one another, and we'll be able to move forward after this.
Yeah, and this is another example of communication too, because I believe, and I don't know, I'm not in the room, but I'm just trying to get a feel for what happened. I believe Jason Spezza said, well, if you're upset with me not doing this, and this, well, I'm upset with you for not doing this, and this. Because a lot of times Jason Spezza was playing on the fourth line with Brett Ritchie and, Remy Ellie and guys that maybe didn't, suit him perfectly. And then he also got moved from the first power play to the second power play. So, how are you supposed to produce if you're not putting me in the position to produce? So Ken, he scratches him, but when he brings him back, he puts him on a second line with Matthias Janmark and Devon Shore, and he puts him back on the first power play. And he scored both his goals on the first power play, one on a great pass from Radulov. And so you were like, okay, yes, he does need to be better. Yes, he probably needs to dig in and work harder. But you also have to put him in a place where he can use Jason Spezza's skill. And that's kind of how it went. So it was a nice back and forth between two guys who were probably frustrated and mad and found a way to work it out.
Yeah, it's kind of the what Ken Hitchcock said when he was introduced in round number 2 against to take over for the Dallas Stars as the head coach. He said, I will rub guys the wrong way at times, but it results in a positive for the team and for the player, and that's why the Stars have seemed to me, as I watch them, to be getting better as this season moves along, and you can't say that about enough teams in the NHL.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, we've seen it obviously in this last run. I think they're 9-3-1, and they clearly are playing a better brand of hockey. And more guys are getting it, and they're starting to find the chemistry of leaving lines together. I think Hitch earlier in the year just didn't think that Sagan, Ben, and Radulov could play together because the other team would defend too strongly against it. And then they went on this road trip and left that line together. And that line didn't really have a big game against Buffalo, but like Ken said, the other teams were so worried about that line that, now all of a sudden it opens up, Matthias Janmark or Jason Spezza, who had 2 assists yesterday, or Radek Fox, go all the way down the lineup. And so it's interesting just to see the process and the pull and tug and even Ken, because he can be frustrating because he sometimes knee-jerks. And says, no, we got to fix this. Or he'll be in the middle of a game and say, that's not working. And you're like, well, it worked for 10 games straight. Why don't we trust the 10 in that one period? But that's who he is, and that's how he's done things. And so, what you have to do is take a step back and say, okay, let's look at this in bites of 10 or 20 games and not look at it in one game or one period. And it's funny with Twitter now, so many of the fans are like, oh, this isn't working. Break it up. Do this. Change that. And, so sometimes you do have to just sit back and say, okay, let's see how they do in the second, 30 games or whatever, and let's draw our conclusions from that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Complete overreaction. We need instant gratification. But from a fan's perspective, if I can chip in, I am always happy to see Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, and Alex Radulov play together. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was a game against Edmonton a couple of weeks ago, just before their break. They had that first period. I mean, they were absolutely overwhelming against the Edmonton Oilers. But they have the talent and the ability to do that. If given the opportunity by their opponent, they will absolutely overwhelm you on the ice.
And they love each other. I mean, they love playing with each other. Mike Modano and Sergei Zubov used to do this funny little drill in the morning skate where they'd try to put a bad pass past the other guy. So you're going endboard or sideboard to sideboard, and then you're shooting a bad pass at that guy. And it's got to probably pretty much stay on the ice. It can kind of bounce and stuff like that. But then, Modano would shoot it. Zubov has to act as a goalie. Zubov would shoot it. Modano has to act as a goalie. And they would do this pretty much every morning skate. And I said, you're just teaching each other to throw bad passes. He goes, no, we're teaching each other to catch bad passes. And so now in the warm-ups before almost every game, Seguin, Ben, and Radulov will go down in one of the corners and do like baseball pepper drill, where they're just sending back lightning fast passes to each other from 10 feet away. And it's really impressive just how good their hands are, just how good their chemistry is, and then that they're having fun doing it. They're finding new and interesting ways to make themselves better players. And this isn't the coaches. This is just three guys saying, hey, let's go over here and do this in the corner, and that will help us with our ability to pass to each other. So they have that chemistry, even when they're not playing the game. So it's kind of fun.
That's a great story. Hey, just before I let you go, I want to ask you quickly. The other thing of note, Kari Lehtinen has played very well for the Dallas Stars, and he's played a few games recently where he's looked good, and I'm glad all that baggage that he's carried for the last couple of years is behind him.
Yeah, me too. And it's people ask about, okay, well, what are they going to do? I think there's a very good chance, he stays for a year or two or whatever we've still got the rest of the season to go and to figure out how this all works. But I think he could sign a contract here for a very reasonable number. He's making $5 million this year, but $1.5 to $2 million, and he could be their backup again next year. So it's working out very well. Just the way that him and Ben interact together, and that's a huge role too. I mean, Ken's always had two goalies, so he very much likes having a veteran backup.
That's a great bit. That's a fun story about Radulov and Ben and Seguin too. Mike Heika, always with the latest stuff on the Dallas Stars for the Dallas Morning News at Mike Heika. Follow him on Twitter. Thanks for this, Mike, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, have a great Sunday, Todd.
Thank you. Mike Heika from the Dallas Morning News. That is a great story. Playing pepper drills. It's a really good idea, too. Just sharpens you up right before the game. That's a really good idea. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. One more segment up to the top of the hour. We'll tee up some of the big games coming this week. Don't forget, it's All-Star Weekend next weekend, and that has an impact on fantasy hockey. Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, coming up in our next segment. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova product design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Novo product design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova product design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Sunday edition, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. We're live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's powered by Primetime Radio. In his usual way, with fun, he usually has a good comment, a good story or two. We always look for good fantasy info from our friend Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. #Fantasy5. He's here with 5 names once again this week to help you. Steve, I've just decided that, I'm kind of resigning myself that this is not going to be my year. I'm not having a good year. I don't know that I'm going to empty my roster and call up all young players to play, but at some point I've just got to accept that it's not going to be my year this year. Do people ever get to that point in fantasy hockey that you heard?
People definitely get to that point, and for those people, I would say quitters never win.
Fair. I'm not going to quit, but I'm understanding the situation and its reality and what it presents to me. But I'm always looking for help, and you got more this week in terms of the Fantasy 5, #Fantasy5. And name number 1 has been talked about an awful lot because we're not sure what color jersey he's going to be wearing after February 26th, but it's Max Pacioretty of the Montreal Canadiens. He has been heating up.
Absolutely. He's got 7 goals in his last 7 games. So certainly you're finally getting the production that you drafted him in the top 50 for. Now, I mean, he's universally owned in fantasy leagues. So the only way to get him if you don't already have him is through a trade. And if, the Pacioretty owner in your league is a Habs fan, then you're not getting their binky away from you. But if they aren't a Habs fan, then odds are they're still pretty disappointed with the first half that he had, and they'll probably let go of a potential 30-goal scorer for a song. I mean, he's not on pace for 30 goals, but a really strong second half push. This goal scorer can get as hot as any of them. I think that he's in for a strong second half.
Nice. His binky. Name number 2 on the Fantasy 5 this week from Steve Laidlaw is David Perron. When he came into the league, he surprised an awful lot of people, and we're seeing him really score at a tremendous pace this year.
Yeah, he's been scoring at just below a point per game pace, and even bouncing back from a concussion, he's been right back at that pace and getting back into the lineup. So I mean, he's not been as exciting, I guess, as the top line guys there in Vegas, but certainly producing at a similar rate as guys like Marchessault and Riley Smith. And so he's still widely available in fantasy leagues and available to provide a tremendous value to you.
Name number 3 on Steve's Fantasy 5 this week, #Fantasy5, Evgeny Dadonov of the Florida Panthers. Again, not a great team, but there are always options for fantasy hockey points.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about Dadonov at times before this season, and he went through a stretch where he got a little bit banged up, and he was no longer skating on the top line with Barkov and Huberdeau, but he's been back on that top line. He's got points in 6 straight games. Whenever he's on the top line, he's going to be producing because that's that line is as good as any in the league.
Name number 4 on the Fantasy 5 is Matthias Janmark of the Dallas Stars. It was like everybody was picking up points yesterday against the Buffalo Sabres. Tell us about Matthias Janmark.
Yeah, I mean, he's always kind of flashed some fantasy potential, and I mean, the Stars have been desperately looking for secondary scoring outside of the Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Alexander Radulov top line, and as long as they're loading up that top line, there's going to be less opportunities for folks to score. But Janmark's got 6 goals and 10 points in his last 11 games, so if he can continue to do that, then the Stars can continue to load up their top line. And obviously, a guy scoring at near point per game pace for, the past month or so, certainly worth considering.
Name number 5 is Travis Konechny of the Philadelphia Flyers, who's producing points. He's also getting a little power play time.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they finally jumped him up onto the top line with Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier. We saw about a month ago Wayne Simmons was having a terrible season, and they moved him up into that spot to give him a little bit of polish and spike his numbers. And certainly that's helped Simmons turn his season around. Now Konechny's getting the top line treatment, and he's got 9 points in his last 10 games. So another guy who's benefiting from those top line opportunities that are so scarce but so valuable.
Stephen Laidlaw is the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. At Steve Laidlaw is how you follow him on Twitter, and that's the Fantasy 5, Fantasy 5, the only place you'll find it here every Sunday at this time. Steve, thanks. Have a great week, and we'll do it again next Sunday.
Absolutely, Todd. You stay resilient, stay with it. If you can sneak into the playoffs, anything can happen.
Fair enough. I'm not quitting. I will never quit, but I'm being realistic in my assessment. Thanks to Steve Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. If you missed any of the Fantasy 5, Max Pacioretty of the Montreal Canadiens, named number 1. David Perron of the Vegas Golden Knights, number 2. Evgeny Dadonov of the Florida Panthers. Matthias Janmark of the Dallas Stars. And Travis Konechny of the Philadelphia Flyers, the 5 this week. We'll put the list up on our Facebook page. We'll tweet it out. We'll put it up on our Instagram account as well, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. And Steve will join us next week. 5 games on the Sunday schedule. Philly is in Washington. Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Marc-Andre Fleury scheduled to get the start again in goal. Vancouver Canucks in Winnipeg to take on the Jets. Man, those Jets have been good, but the Vancouver Canucks are getting a little bit help today. Bo Horvat has been activated from the IR. San Jose Sharks are in Anaheim to take on the Ducks, and the New York Rangers taking on the Los Angeles Kings, a 10:30 Eastern time start, 7:30 local time. Those are the 5 games on the Sunday schedule. Oh, a little bit more injury news as well. The positive for Bo Horvat, who has recovered and should get back into the lineup for the Vancouver Canucks today. But we talked a little bit earlier about the New Jersey Devils, and yesterday, with Keith Kincaid injured in the first period of the game against the Philadelphia Flyers, it is serious, as anticipated. Keith Kincaid out with a groin injury. He was placed on the injured reserve. And the New Jersey Devils also lost Brian Gibbons from their lineup in that game yesterday against the Philadelphia Flyers. Broken thumb. He, too, is on the injured reserve. Those are both really tough blows for the New Jersey Devils to take. It's a bit of a funky schedule this week because there are only games through Thursday. Of course, next weekend we get into the NHL All-Star Weekend with the skills competition on Saturday evening, and then the 3-on-3 tournament style on Sunday afternoon. We'll be there next weekend, spending a little time in Tampa Bay for All-Star Weekend. Looking forward to that. Some other interesting matchups, though, to keep in mind. Colorado Avalanche are in Toronto on Monday to take on the Maple Leafs. The Avs will go for 10 straight. They already have the longest win streak this year. 10 straight. And remember, this is the first of a lengthy road trip for the Avalanche. 9 of their next 10 come on the road. Tampa is in Chicago on Monday. Detroit is in New Jersey on Monday as well. Tampa, Nashville, I'm really interested to see how that game plays out coming up on Tuesday. And Columbus takes on Vegas. Winnipeg is in San Jose. The Rangers are in Anaheim as they continue their West Coast swing on Tuesday. Later on in the week, Toronto, Chicago, LA, and Colorado. Those are the 2 games that are on Wednesday. Tampa's in Philly on Thursday. Minnesota's in Pittsburgh. Winnipeg is in Anaheim. The Rangers wrap up their California West Coast swing with a game in San Jose on Thursday, and that will wrap up NHL regular season action until after the All-Star break. Friday, the travel day. Saturday, the skills competition. Sunday, the 3-on-3 tournament. We're looking forward to it next weekend in Tampa. Thanks to Steve Laidlaw, to Mike Heika, to Mark Lazerus, to Andy Strickland, and Adam Vingan, all for joining us on the program. Join us next week from All-Star Weekend in Tampa. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back then.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit NovaProductDesign.com to learn more.